Okay, let's get started. So, for my Module 3, Unit 1, Activity 1 vlog, I will be focusing on the student survey as well as the teacher survey, as well as the general takeaways that I had from each one. So, to start with the student survey background, I interviewed 8 of students that I teach in my academy. They are all Korean, they are all under 10 years old, and they have been ESL students for at least 3 years. The first question I asked them was, what are your favorite classes? And the top choices were gym, art, and science. For the second question, I asked, what are your hobbies? This is a more open ended question where they could pick their own answers. They chose drawing, playing games, and sports as their top three. And as far as access to technology goes, I asked them, what technologies do you use to help you with your classwork and homework? Most of them said their phones, followed by tablets. And for fourth question, in order to check their familial background, I asked who helps you the most with your homework. The vast majority said their mom, and one person said their dad. Well, two said their dad, and one apparently just works alone. And as far as how many academies or sports or tutoring programs, generally after school programs that they go to, most go to 5 or more, some go to 4, and the rest either going to 2 or just 1. And in order to determine their skills, I just plainly asked, what are your best English skills? Most of them said speaking, reading, and writing. And for the seventh question, and the final one, I asked, what are the hardest parts of English for you? This was to determine what sort of deficiencies that they think that they have. And most of them said grammar, followed by writing and speaking and conversation. So the general findings that I can take away from this is that they are very technologically active, but they may be overwhelmed with many after-school programs. The parents, especially the moms, are very active in their schoolwork. They're interested in creativity and how the world works. This is reflected by their interests in art and also in science, most interestingly enough. And some of the basic elements of English, especially grammar, are tough for them. Now, to deal with this, potential strategies that I came up with are to not overwhelm them with homework and to try and base it around apps that they could get to on their phones very easily, perhaps when they're going between their different academies. And I would also like to include visuals and project making in order to help stand out more from what they may do at other places. And I would mix in grammar with art and science to sort of give them something more visual that they can understand or maybe even grasp, and incorporate videos also to help them with that avenue. And as far as the parents, I would involve them in the learning process through websites or apps that they can both check student progress and also perhaps interact more quickly and be able to give feedback back and forth. So for the teacher survey, I wanted to get a general idea not only just on the background of the teachers, but also their inclinations towards technology. So I interviewed I gave a questionnaire to 3 teachers teaching in Korea at academies. They are of a similar age group and they are technologically inclined, but some in more ways than others. So the first question is, what age level do you teach and what program do you work for? They all work at private schools. One teaches kindy to elementary, the other 2 teach elementary to middle school age students. They are all of similar age and have been using the internet for about the same amount of time, based on the second question. The third question being, are they generally active on social media and discussion boards? 2 said yes, 1 said not really. What are the benefits of technology on the classroom or learning process? The general ideas were that it is easily accessible. You can get to information quickly. It enhances the learning experience and students tend to be more engaged. But the detriments that they stressed are that technology can be too new and untested. A common answer was that they can be easily distracted by the technology, those being the students. It can be time consuming to set up, especially if there's a breakdown, and student expectations of what the technologies may be like may be too high, and they may be disappointed. So for the sixth question, what apps or technologies or websites do they generally use? Most of them had different answers. Well, pretty much all of them had different answers, I should say. Teachers Help Teachers was one. one of the teachers specifically focused on just using PowerPoints, and another one was especially technologically apt and used several different ones, including Google Suite, Plickers, and Flipgrid. So for question number 7, what do they wish they could have? One said more listening apps. The one who focused on PowerPoints said nothing else, and another said an app called Kahoot for assessment. For question 8, do they take in student feedback as to what they would like to use, and are they allowed to implement this? One said yes to both. Another said they try to, but they're generally not really allowed. And the last one said that they ask students for opinions, even if they complain about their implementation later on. Question number 9 is, what is their thought process that they go through to decide to pick new technologies? One of them said it was to determine if it was beneficial and if it complements the lesson. The one focusing on PowerPoint, of course, figuring if PowerPoint is appropriate. And the last one determining the relevance and effectiveness of the technology on the class. And the final question is, are they more inclined to use technology and other such things for efficiency, to get the class done faster, or to make it more interesting? One's focused on efficiency, and 2 focused on making the class more interesting. And the takeaways that we can, or that I can get from this, are that there are different interests in what technologies they want implemented. This, of course, can be boiled down to their different situations. And there are a big range of them to appeal to the new generation, but we also have to be careful of distractions and bugs. And I think that perhaps looking at this, and I would agree, the best way is to appeal to interest first, but we have to constantly maintain trends, especially for younger and middle grade levels that we all teach. And interest level also appears to be important to ESL teachers, as I have found, and they seem to indicate, especially because we have to give them more attention and have to give them better avenues of finding information. So finding more interesting technologies, maybe incorporating smaller ones on phones, will be better. Okay, thank you for listening.